Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to this evening's Colors of Glory virtual meet. I am Aparna Chandrasekharan, a life member of the Colors of Glory Foundation and your MC for this event. Today's event is one in a series of virtual meets we have been hosting since the pandemic set in 2020, the frequency of which has widened after we have resumed our in-person events in June last year. While the regular,
Please mute others.
While the regular attendees of our events do not need to be told what our organization is about, kindly bear with me through a brief introduction for the sake of the new attendees, whom we are delighted to welcome today. Traditionally, our country has never lacked organizing, celebrating our heritage in almost every sphere of human or politics. However, for warfare alone does not really enjoy this privilege, despite our rich military legacy. It is this grave anomaly that our founders set out to rectify by raising the Colors of Glory Foundation, the first of its kind in India 7 years ago. Today, we are proud to assert that we have carved a niche for ourselves, celebrating the heroism of our men and women in arms, past and present, through innumerable events, outdoor and indoor, varying from battle reenactments, exhibitions, commemorative marathons to documentary shows and intercollegiate and interschool military history quizzes, as well as talks and seminars. As we go on, we will continue to host the virtual meets to reach out to our national and international audiences. We also endeavor to host some in-person outreach programs in other cities in the near future, commencing with Bengaluru. Meanwhile, we invite all of you who are not yet members of our organization to join us in our unique mission. Please visit our website to know how to join. I am now delighted to give you all a glimpse of the road we have traveled so far through a brief video, which of course is only a part of the story because it depicts only major outdoor events that we have hosted and not the innumerable indoor and virtual events that we've held so far. I now invite Dr. Ramakrishnan Ramani to introduce our speaker for the day, Colonel S.V. Sundar. Over to you, Dr. Ram.
Thanks, Aparna. Thank you very much. Hearty good evening, everybody. It gives me a great pleasure to introduce Colonel Sundar this evening because Colonel Sundar and I, we have had a long relationship. It was a privilege and honor for me to have been his course mate during our master's degree at Madras University. So with that note, let me introduce Colonel Sundar. A graduate of Presidency College, Chennai, Colonel Sundar holds a master's degree in Defense and Strategic Studies from the University of Madras, where he won 2 gold medals, one for his academic excellence and another for his dissertation on India's nuclear strategy. During his army career spanning 25 years as an officer in the mechanized infantry, he served in all operational sectors. The highlight of his career was a tenure in Siachen Glacier at extreme high altitudes of over 17,000 feet, where he carried out special operations as part of the Special Frontier Force, which till today remains classified. Post-retirement, he has held prestigious appointments such as the Dean Academics of ICWAI, the Institute of Cost Accountants in Chennai, and has also served as the Additional Director of Army Welfare Education Society for over 9 years before opting for full-time retirement. Besides his favorite hobbies of reading and writing, he is a passionate lover of the Himalayas and makes it a point to visit the mountains every year. A life member of the Colors of Glory Foundation, he has become its popular face during the past couple of years as the quiz master of the intercollegiate and inter-school military history quizzes that the foundation regularly conducts. So with that short note, I would like to hand it over to Colonel Sundar to take this session away. Over to you, Sundar, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ramu, for the introduction. I think it's the second time you're introducing me. Last time and
always a pleasure.
When I gave the presentation on nuclear strategy. Okay. Now, just before I get on, I'll just get the technicals out of the way, do the screen sharing, etc. before I, yeah. All right. I think everybody can see that. Yeah. Colors of Glory, celebrating the heroism of our men and women in arms, the first ever initiative in India to promote public awareness of the country's rich military heritage. I'm a life member of Colors of Glory, and it is on their behalf that I will be presenting Sagat Singh to all of you today. Always a pleasure and an honor to address this informed audience. Before I get down to the topic, a word about how this talk came about and how I'm sitting in front of you to give this talk. On 20th of May, Captain Ramchandran, who's our founder, was in conversation with Shiv Kumar Verma on the book that he had written, authored 1962, The War That Wasn't. So Shiv Kumar Verma had authored this very famous book, and it was a brilliant conversation which was there. At the end of the conversation, I had a few questions about Sagat Singh. Because after 1962, where we had suffered a setback with the Chinese, in 1967, under Sagat Singh, which a small battle or a skirmish was there at Nathula, where we gave a bloody nose to the Chinese. So when I raised a few questions about Sagat Singh, it was brilliantly answered by Shiv Kumar Verma. And I let slip at that moment that given an opportunity, I would like to speak about Sagat Singh. Captain Ramchandran kept note of this and kindly invited me. I very happily accepted, and I assure you, sir, that we'll have a very interesting 40 minutes or so. So that is how I am sitting here, presenting Sagat Singh to you. Now, before I get down to the topic, I'd like to first tell you what I will not be talking about and what I will be talking about, so that it is clear to the audience as to how I propose to present Sagat Singh to all of you. What I will not be doing is put up a lot of military maps, put up, those formation arrows and other things, because it will become too technical jargon and will not be an interesting talk. What I will be talking about is Sagat, the man and the events that shaped him. Sagat, the warrior and the events that made him. How his military genius evolved. What was the maverick in Sagat and what it cost him professionally. And finally, I will also talk about why I consider Sagat as an unsung hero. Why I became interested in Sagat is also important because it was in the year 2019 when his 100th birth anniversary was being celebrated. A lot of snippets of information started coming, and I started growing more and more fascinated about Sagat Singh and started putting it in my digital diary. And then somebody told me to read this book, A Talent for War, which was written by his ADC, Ranveer Singh, who also became a major later. And then I was totally hooked. Because what emerged was a picture of a multifaceted personality, a larger-than-life figure who towered over everybody else, literally and figuratively. He was 6'3" and tough as nails. And to my mind, he was the best battlefield commander that modern Indian army has produced till date. And it is this man, Sagat Singh, whom I will be presenting it to you today, as I see him as a military genius, maverick, and the unsung hero. Now, how I will be presenting him is the introduction, which has already taken place. I will then touch upon young Sagat from the time he was born till the time he was 26, go on to his military genius and how it evolved, where I will touch upon three aspects: the liberation of Goa, the Nathula incident, and 1971 operations. I will talk about Sagat the Maverick, why I consider him an unsung hero, and then conclude and throw it open for questions and discussion. Going on to young Sagat. Now, Sagat was the eldest of 9 siblings, and he was born on the 14th of July, 1919, in a village called Kusum Desar in Rajasthan. Now, I have been posted as the G3 in Rajasthan in the year 1987. And while I will not call it backward, the living conditions there are very primitive. And in the late 1930s, it was also a very feudalistic society. And 1919, when Sagat was born, it was into these circumstances that he had been born. A word about Sagat's father. He had served in the state forces. For the state forces means every Maharaja had an army at that particular point in time. And this army was known as the state forces. And Sagat's father had stayed in this, served in the state forces, served in World War I, and retired as an honorary captain. And he was a very respected person, both in his village and society. Now, Maharaja Ganga Singh, who was the Maharaja of Bikaner, wanted his subjects to have good education. Therefore, in addition to the local schools, he had also established English medium schools. And the Walter Noble School was one of those schools which was in Bikaner. And the medium of instruction was English and Hindi. And it was into this school that Sagat was admitted. Now, imagine the difficulty as far as Sagat was concerned. He knew only the local dialect, and he was admitted in the school. And to his credit, he did well and he passed out of the school and joined Dungar College. He did not finish his college, but enrolled again in the Maharaja State Forces or the Maharaja's Army. Now, after he had enrolled as a Nayak in the Maharaja Army, he did brilliantly well as far as his recruit training was concerned. And very soon made it to the rank of a Jamadar, which is equivalent to Nayak Subedar in today's army. Now, as luck would have it, the war clouds of Second World War of 39 to 42 or 45 was looming, and the officers' vacancies opened up, and the state forces were told that you will fill up all your officers' vacancies. A list of 6 Jamadars was drawn up. Sagat's name was in it, and he passed with flying colors and was commissioned as a second lieutenant. He was posted to the Sadul Light Infantry, which is not there in the Indian Army now, and went to serve in Iraq. Now, when he went to serve in Iraq, another stroke of luck, the higher formation, which was the sub-area headquarters, asked for a staff learner, somebody to be given to them from the battalion to come and serve with them. And Sagat was nominated as a staff learner to the higher formation headquarters, which was the sub-area headquarters. One of the duties that was usually assigned to him was escorting the British officers and the visiting dignitaries around the headquarters and this place. Now, what would have happened to any other officer in Sagat's place socially at this point in time, gentlemen? Please remember that this was the late 1930s, and it was only the Indian nobility, princes and the kings who would interact with the Britishers and the British officers. But Sagat used it as a stepping stone, and he had a talent for mimicry. He picked up English, and not only did his English improve, but he became very popular in the social circle. And according to Second Lieutenant Mohan Singh, who was posted, his confidence and his capability and the way he spoke English improved tremendously. This did not go unnoticed by the British officers there. There was an officer called Colonel Bill Sykes who was overseeing the battalion, and he probably had a role to play in Sagat as a second lieutenant getting nominated to the staff course at Haifa. This was a singular honor because Sagat was the only officer from the state forces to be nominated for this course. The other officer to be nominated was Major Harkishan Singh Sibal. Incidentally, it was from Harkishan Singh Sibal that Sagat took over 4 Corps in 1970. Now, after he had served quite well there, he got posted back in September 1954 to Bikaner. And in Bikaner, again, he got nominated for the staff course at Quetta, which is in Pakistan. Again, a singular honor as far as Sagat Singh was concerned, the only officer to be nominated for 2 staff courses. He did well in the staff course and got posted back to Bikaner as the BM of the Bikaner Ganga Risala, or the state forces, or what is the Maharaja's army. Now, what had happened, gentlemen, a transformation had taken place between 1942 to 1946. And I will put it in Randir's words in his book, the lanky, awkward youth, comfortable only when speaking in Marwadi, who left in 1942, had come back transformed into a tough, sophisticated, exuding cool confidence and with a worldview of his own. This is what Randir Singh has to say about him in his book. Now, why did this transformation take place? According to me, Sagat had a desire to excel in whatever he did, and it was coupled with a penchant for hard work. And last but not the least, and most important of all, ladies and gentlemen, was he had the confidence and the ability to break free from his vernacular background and what would otherwise have turned out to be very restrictive circumstances. So this was Sagat Singh from 1942 to 1946. And before I go on to his military genius, a short look at Sagat's career from 1949 to 1960. In 1949, he was transferred from the state forces to Indian Army, posted as a G2 to the Delhi area. 1950, posted as BM Samba Brigade, then to 33 GR. And from 1955 to 58, he commanded 2 Gurkha battalions, the 2nd, 3rd, and the 3rd GR. 1958 to 1960, posted as an instructor in the military headquarters of war. And in 1960, posted back to the army headquarters. When he was posted back to the army headquarters, he came to the notice of the then Adjutant General, P.P. Kumaramangalam, who saw his professionalism and dynamism and decided to post him as the commander of the Para Brigade. Now, this was an unprecedented move, ladies and gentlemen, because no non-para officer had ever been posted as a commander of the Para Brigade. Now, for benefit of the civilians who are listening, who is a paratrooper? A paratrooper is a soldier who's trained to jump from aircrafts in a parachute with his weapons, equipment, and ammunition, land on the ground and carry out operations. And generally, these people are used behind enemy lines in very, very daring operations. And these paratroopers are very prickly and do not take very kindly to a non-paratrooper, coming to command them. We have quite a few paratroopers listening in, and more about the paratroopers later. However, General P.P. Kumaramangalam's confidence in Sagat was not belied, as the events that unfolded in the liberation of Goa was to prove. Now, going on to Sagat's military genius, I will touch upon it in the liberation of Goa, the Nathula incident, and in the 1971 operations. First, the liberation of Goa. This happened between 17th of December and the 19th of December in 1961. It was an action-packed 2 days. 17th of December, our forces started to go to liberate Goa, which had been occupied by Portuguese. And in spite of diplomatic efforts, they had not left Portugal and were taken over by a military operation. By 19th of December morning, 9 a.m., Sagat's forces had streamed into Panaji, or as it is called now, or Panjim as it was called then, and liberated Goa. Now, how did this happen? By the mid-1961, the Indian government had taken a decision that the Portuguese government, which was in Goa, had to be liberated by a military action. The how of it is not within the scope of this lecture. Let us take it as a given that these orders were given to the military. So what was the military aim? Was the capture of Panjim, the seat of Portuguese power, as early as possible. So there was a plan which was made for this, which was made by the army commander, Southern Army Commander, Lieutenant General J.N. Chowdhury, who later became the chief. And who are the people to execute this plan? It was Major General Kandat, who was the GOC of 17 Mountain Division, and Brigadier Sagat Singh, commander of the 50 Para Brigade. Now, for the benefit of the civilians, what were the forces and how it went about, I will. Kandat's force was supposed to be the main force, and he had 2 infantry brigades and an infantry battalion. For the benefit of the civilian, this is about 7,000 soldiers, apart from the other bridging equipment, etc., which was in there. Sagat Singh had only 3 infantry battalions, along with a squadron of armor, which are tanks. So he had about 3,000 soldiers. So the major force was supposed to go and capture the seat of power, and Sagat's, which was the subsidiary force, was only supposed to assist. Now let us see what actually happened, ladies and gentlemen. I will take you step by step. Please don't get confused by the number of arrows and the number of dots. First of all, Kandat's force, which you see at the bottom, was to come in from the east, and Sagat's force, which was a subsidiary force, was to come in from the north. And one small force of a company was supposed to come in from this village of Margao. Further down is Karwar, the port of Karwar. And where you see Molam, where Kandat's force was supposed to come from, right or to the east of that was Belgaum. Now, Kandat's force, which was the main force, was supposed to converge onto Ponda. Sagat's force, which was the subsidiary force, was supposed to come down from the north and stop at those 2 places which you see. On the left is Mapuka, which is 14 kilometers from Panjim. On the right is Usgaon, which is 11 kilometers from Ponda. Sagat's force was supposed to come down here, wait for orders. Kandat's force, the main force, was supposed to come up, and initially they were supposed to capture Ponda. After the capture of Ponda, they were supposed to go into Panjim. This was the plan as it was supposed to be carried out. Now let us see how the events unfolded, gentlemen. Very, very interesting. Please listen carefully. Now, as I had already told you, Sagat had 3 battalions with him, 2 Sikalai, as you see the leftmost, along with a squadron of armor, 1 para, which is in the middle, and 2 para, which is to the extreme right. All the forces started moving on the 17th of December at night. By 18th of December, at about 1 p.m., one of the young company commanders of 2 paras, Captain Pannu, had already knocking on the doors of Ponda, which was supposed to be captured by Kandat's main force. Kandat's main force was slowly, trudging along, and there were more than 12 or 13 kilometers from Ponda when this young company commander was pleading to Sagat, "Sir, I am at the gates of Ponda, please let me capture Ponda." Now Sagat was in a dilemma because Ponda was to be captured by the main force. He decided to give his youngster the head and told him, go ahead and capture Ponda. And by 2 p.m., Ponda had already been captured by this young company commander who formed part of Sagat's force. It was 2 paras coming in from the right. They did not halt at Usgaon, drove for Ponda, and without orders, looking back over his shoulder, Sagat gave the orders and Ponda was taken by 2 p.m. Now let us see what happens in the evening by 6 p.m. Fast forward to 6 p.m. 1 para making a dash, and gentlemen, you should, ladies and gentlemen, remember that 9 paras was coming against the grain of the country. They had 4 river obstacles, and every bridge that they encountered had already been blown up in their advance by the Portuguese. They made improvised river crossings and reached, and to cut a long story short, one para reached this place called Banastaram, which is about 11 kilometers from Panjim, and it was led by Lieutenant Colonel Sucha Singh, very daring officer who had 2 military decorations already to his credit, and they were making improvised river crossings to go across the river to go towards Panjim when he got the orders from Sagat to halt at Banastaram. Now let us see what happens to 2 Sikalai and the squadron armor coming from Mapuka. They did not order at Mapuka. Sagat told them don't stop, and they dashed down and came to Betum, which is hardly 2 kilometers from Panjim. Now, Kandat's force trudging along found that Ponda, which they were supposed to capture, had already been captured. He diverted his force to Margao, and to his utter charging found that Margao had also been taken over by that company which came. So Kandat's force now became the sideshow, and Sagat's force has become the main show. Now, unfortunately, what happened, ladies and gentlemen, communication failed. Sagat was not able to tell Kandat, this is where I am, but luckily he was able to get through to the army commander, General Chaudhary, and tell him, sir, my forces are almost at the gates of Panjim, and what are the orders for me? Now, General Chaudhary, realizing how did he get through, is very another interesting this thing. There was a radio relay that got through to him, but Sagat's enterprising signalers found that the telephone lines were going through. These were trunk lines. They climbed up and managed to hook onto the trunk lines, and through telephone made a trunk call to the rear headquarters on telephone. And very, very funny, gentlemen, this is how the civilian bureaucracy works. The army was given a bill for a trunk call, which indignantly they refused to pay. This is just the lighter side of it. General Chaudhary, now realizing the importance, gave the go-ahead to Sagat Singh to go and capture Panjim. And Kandat's force is still, trudging along. And morning at 7 o'clock or around that time, both 2 Sikalai, which is at Betim, 2 kilometers short of it, and Sucha Singh of 1 para get the orders to go into Panjim. Now, Sucha Singh was very, very irritated because he did not have boats and he did not want 2 Sikalai to beat him into Panjim. He told his battalion, damn it, jump into the river, swim across, and we will race 2 Sikalai to Panjim. And both the battalions in a race to Panjim got into Panjim almost simultaneously. Even today, 2 Sikalai says we went to Panjim first, 1 para says we went to Panjim first. That is not. But Panjim was captured to jubilating, crowds which were there, and Panjim was handed over to a grateful government at 9 a.m. on the 19th of December. So this was how it happened in these, interesting 24 hours, ladies and gentlemen. Now, what were the takeaways for Sagat from the liberation of Goa or the Goa operations? This is very, very important. The first takeaway was that speed in operations and keeping abreast of what is happening on the front lines is very, very important for a commander to be able to influence the battle. Second is, when fleeting opportunities are presented, they should be grabbed. Do not look a gift horse in the mouth. And third, always exceed your brief. All these lessons were very important, ladies and gentlemen, because in 1971, 10 years later, he would apply the same on a bigger and a different template when he was the GOC of Fort. So this is as far as the liberation of Goa is concerned. I will move on now to the incident at Nathula. Ladies and gentlemen, as far as I am concerned, it was the Nathula incident which tested the nerve and the steel of Sagat more than the liberation of Goa or the 1971 operations, and these are the reasons that I give for it. The first is he did not have the backing of the government. It was 1967, and in 1962 it suffered a setback, and the government was very chary of spooking the Chinese in any manner. So they were always, soft peddling any issues which came up. Point number two, he had serious differences of opinions with his senior commanders as to how he should go about his job. I will explain that a little clearly a little later. And the third, as far as the Nathula incident is concerned, was the Chinese had opened fire first and killed more than 60 of our people. This I will explain a little later. And because of this, we had suffered the first psychological setback. But he confronted his own fears, rose above his own fears, and showed what steel that he's made of. Now, the border with China is not demarcated. And if you see, this is the kind of terrain in which our troops are deployed. Now, coming to the Nathula incident. What were the differences of opinion that Sagat had as far as defending this place with the seniors is concerned? If you see the map, gentlemen, Nathula is in the middle. And towards the bottom, there is a place called Jalapla. And up is Chola. Now, I will first touch upon Nathula and Jalapla. In the year 1965, the Chinese had issued an ultimatum that we should vacate both Nathula and Jalapla. We vacated Jalapla and promptly the Chinese occupied it. Now, since I will be talking only about Sagat as a man, I will not talk too much about the operations. But when Sagat came to Nathula, Nathula is at 14,500 feet and it is a pass, and Jalapla is also a pass. When we had vacated Jalapla, Sagat Singh said, I will not vacate Nathula. He said, I am a divisional commander. I will fight the battle as I see fit. And please do not ask me to withdraw my post. Every inch of territory which is there with me, I will not concede 1 inch to the Chinese. So he did not vacate Nathula. And what had happened, the tension started building up in Nathula. And, firing was taking place, border clashes and all that. Finally, it came to a stage where soldiers used to go to the border with, and then clashes in the sense pushing and shoving between the Chinese soldiers and us started taking place. Sagat decided that he will lay a barbed wire in the undemarcated border where they had agreed that this is the place. And he said, I will lay this barbed wire so that this does not happen anymore. And accordingly, the barbed wire started being laid on the 18th of August of 1967, ladies and gentlemen. From 18th to 29th of August, this pushing, shoving, whenever we went to lay the barbed wire, the Chinese used to come and this sort of thing started happening. And I think in Sagat's mind, he knew, even though we are laying this wire on our territory only, it would provoke the Chinese, and it was his intention to provoke the Chinese and give them a bloody nose. Maybe he held the cards close to his chest and he did not, put it out, and it was the right thing he did, as history has proved. Now, on the 10th of September, Sagat gave a briefing to all that the wire laying will go on after the place had been visited by both him and the corps commander about 4 or 5 days earlier. By this time, all this had also attracted the international media who had come and taken photographs of all these things happening. And later, one of our commanding officers of 2 grenadiers was knocked down in that scuffle. And for the first time, the Chinese fired a bullet for which they apologized. So Sagat knew that something was happening. So what he did was he moved up the brigade commander to Nathula, told the CO of the battalion where the wire was being laid to go ahead to that spot, but to keep himself in the bunker. And he himself moved up to be close to Nathula and just behind Nathula because he had an intuition that something would happen. Now on 11th of September, gentlemen, the pot boiled over. Again, the Chinese came at 7:45 when all this was happening. Suddenly a whistle blew, and to the surprise of the Indian soldiers, the Chinese suddenly started withdrawing. By that time, they had already built their bunkers on the high ground. If you see Nathula, there's high ground ahead of it. They had built the bunkers and positioned their machine guns. As soon as the whistle blew and the people started withdrawing, the machine guns opened up, and in devastating fire, gentlemen, more than 70 of our soldiers were butchered, literally butchered on the plains with these 2 machine guns opening up. In fact, the Chinese were so ruthless that some of their own soldiers who had not made it back to the bunkers were also shot down. Immediately after that, the Chinese opened up with their mortars and their artillery. The troops were shell-shocked, and some of the troops broke and started withdrawing. The brigade commander who was at Nathula kept very calm and kept the front troops in their places. And Sagat, already having realized that something may happen, had already alerted his artillery guns and the artillery OP. What is an artillery gun? What is an OP for the benefit of the civilians? I will explain a little later. And by this time, when he heard all this noise, Sagat started moving up from behind the road where he was towards Nathula. And to his horror, he found that the Indian troops, some of them were withdrawing. So he pulled out his pistol or the Sten. There are differences what weapon he had with him. And along with the Subedar Major of the 2 Grenadiers Battalion, told the Indian troops that he would shoot anybody who whom he saw withdrawing behind, marshaled these troops and took them to the front line. But as he was taking them to the front line, he realized that unless we also open artillery fire, we will not be able to win this battle with the Chinese. And to open artillery fire, he required the permission of his higher formation, who had to ask Delhi to open fire. And he realized that he did not have the time. And he said, come what may, I will let whatever happen. He gave the order to open artillery fire. Now, for the benefit of the civilians, when artillery fire is opened, what is artillery? How does it function? Artillery is not a direct firing weapon. You don't point it at somebody and shoot. The artillery guns are generally about 2 or 3 kilometers behind. They have a range of about 10 to 24 kilometers, depending upon what is the artillery that you're using. There is a person called an RTOP who sits on a higher ground in front, observes through his binoculars where the shots are falling, and directs the fire of the artillery, the guns which are behind. So when Sagat asked the artillery to be opened up, the artillery OP was in front, and devastating fire was opened on the Chinese. It literally blew the Chinese to smithereens. The Chinese advancing from the Yatung valley, which was in front, bringing up the reinforcements and others, were literally blasted to smithereens. Now, why were the Chinese in the open? Because they thought that the Indian army will not open fire. And when these orders went down, asking for permission, it was Srimati Indira Gandhi. Credit goes to her that without batting an eyelid, she gave the permission to open fire, but it was already fait accompli because fire had already been opened. And when the Chinese had been blasted to smithereens, they asked for a truce. This, by 13th of September, they realized that they could not go anywhere. The bunkers were destroyed and they asked for a truce. Now, what did Sagat say? Sagat says on 13th of September, we launch a counterattack and go into Chinese territory. This is Sagat for you, ladies and gentlemen. The permission was not given. Now, it was a big blow to the Chinese because in Jalapla, by psychological pressure, they had made them withdraw. Nathula, when they tried it, they said they used force and were given a bloody nose, so they could not take it. And a few days later, they tried the same thing at Chola. Colonel Krishnasamy here was at Chola on that particular day, and he will tell you within 24 hours, they were given reply in the same coin, and with the tail stuck between their legs, they ran from Chola. What people ask for a strand of wire, so many lives have been killed. It was not for a strand of wire, ladies and gentlemen. What had Sagat achieved by this? First, he had busted the myth of the 10 feet Chinese, avenged the death of 1962 and laid rest the ghosts of 1962, and given a clear message to the Chinese government that the Indian army that you're facing in 1967 is not the Indian army of 1962. Chow and Lai's government passed orders that no more firing will take place unless the Indian army fires at you. And this was what Sagat achieved for us in Nathula. If Sagat had not taken this action, Nathula today would be with the Chinese. This is what Sagat did for us in Nathula, ladies and gentlemen. With this, I will move on now to the operations in 1971. Ladies and gentlemen, for me to cover the role of Sagat Singh as the 4th Corps commander in 10 minutes is next to impossible, and I will not attempt it. But what I will certainly do is focus on that one action of Sagat, which tilted the balance in the entire campaign, what is called as the 1971 Lightning Campaign, and made the capture of Dhaka possible. Capture of Dhaka was never in the planning stages as an objective of the Indian Army. It was Sagat's unconventional brilliance and audacity that made the fall of Dhaka inevitable. And he made what is famously known as the Meghna Air Bridge. Now, gentlemen, this is the Meghna Air Bridge. So, the operations of 1971, it will not be possible for me to explain. So, I will read a few excerpts from this book, India's Wars 1947 to 91 by Arjun Subramaniam, Air Vice Marshal. Brilliantly researched. I am reading out from the book, gentlemen. Sagat Singh was without doubt the most aggressive operational commander on display during the lightning campaign of Bangladesh. Endowed with an irreverent streak, he had a mind of his own and displayed frontline leadership of the highest quality. The point to be marked here, gentlemen, endowed with an irreverent streak, he had a mind of his own and displayed frontline leadership of the highest quality. Between 9th and 11th December, he heli-lifted more than a brigade worth of troops from Ben Gonsalves' battle-hardened 57 Division across the mighty Meghna to 2 landing zones at Rajpura and Narsingdi. Now, Narsingdi is marked here, gentlemen. Raipura is further to the north. Not satisfied with that, between 6th and 12th December, by 12th December, he heli-lifted another brigade to Narayanganj, which is the heli landing, which is marked there. And between 6th and 12th December, he had landed over 4,000 troops and most of the supporting equipment, including ammunition and light artillery guns in 3 locations, flying 350 sorties, and more than 100 of these sorties had been flown by night. Now, coming back to the battle, Sagat Singh was supposed to come to the river Meghna, which is marked in blue, and he was supposed to halt at the river Meghna for orders. I will take you back to, he was supposed to halt at Mapuka and Usgaon. He did not halt and he gave them punching. He was supposed to halt at the river Meghna or the east thing of the river Meghna. He did not halt. Now, on 7th December, what happens is, his army commander, General Arora, realizes that Sagat is probably planning to cross the Meghna River and tells him, Sagat, you will not cross the Meghna River. Sagat tells him, Jagi, oh, my dead body, I will not cross the Meghna River. I am your corps commander, and if I can cross the Meghna River, go to its west bank, closer to Dhaka, I am giving you the aim plus. And why are you restricting me from giving you the aim plus? There was an acrimonious, debate, and his army commander Arora told him, on 8th of December morning, Sagat, I am visiting you. He said, okay. 8th of morning, army commander lands up in Sagat's location. Sagat refuses to budge. He says, sir, it is possible and I will do it. Anyway, by afternoon, Sagat refuses to budge and, giving an assent because there was nothing else he could do. Arora goes back. And what I read to you, gentlemen, was how he carried out his infantry. Now, he also had a squadron of armor. Now, Sagat Singh tells his young squadron commander, who was known as Shami Mehta, who later became a lieutenant general, we will take your tanks also across. Tanks are amphibious, and after proper recce, he floats these tanks across, and Meghna is 3/4 kilometers wide, gentlemen. And these tanks were floated across, go across by the 14th of December, and by 16th of December, they are on the outskirts of Dhaka. Later, somebody asked Shami Mehta when he was a senior officer, sir, weren't you scared? You're going across the Meghna in amphibious tanks which may sink. You cannot see the far bank. And this is what Shami Mehta had to reply. I'm reading out from Arjun Subramaniam's book, gentlemen. He says, I hardly thought of it that way. We were charged up and young. And when you're young, you don't analyze to paralyze. When you get older, though, you tend to think for the enemy, and that slows you down. The squadron commanders like this, inspired by the leadership of Sagat Singh, made the lift across the Meghna possible. And to put it in Randir, or to quote what was Sagat, 9/10 of tactics are certain and taught in books, but in the irrational 10th is like the kingfisher flashing across a pool, and it lay the test of generals. And Sagat passed this with flying colors, written by T. Lawrence, who was the Lawrence of Arabia. According to Randir Singh, very well put, against the orders and inclinations of his superiors, the doubt and bewilderment of his subordinates, Sagat had literally lifted his corps and propelled it across one of the mightiest rivers of the world. And what did he get in return, gentlemen? He did not get promoted to army commander, but it did not bother him. more of it when I talk about unsung heroes later in my book. So with this, I come to the end of this small thing as to how the genius or the military genius of Sagat evolved. Sorry, gentlemen, I left out something very, very important. 9th of December, Sagat himself said was the most exciting day in his life. When he was going about in his helicopter on the 9th of December, he suddenly saw a bridge had been blown up and he asked the helicopter to go a little lower. And as the helicopter was going lower, and Pakistani machine gun opened up and the bullet smashed into the helicopter. The pilot was badly wounded. Pieces of blood and bone of the pilot flew all over the helicopter. Sagat himself was grazed by a bullet and the helicopter started going down. The other young co-pilot deftly managed the helicopter, made sure it didn't crash, and they brought the helicopter to this side of the Meghna where they landed. As soon as they landed, Sagat ensured that the wounded helicopter pilot was, taken, evacuated for his medical care. And when people expected Sagat would also go to get his injuries treated, he just got out of his helicopter, looked around, saw another helicopter which was ready, got into that helicopter and took off to carry on the job for which he thought he had been made a general. And that is Sagat for you, gentlemen. The man who made the fall of Dhaka inevitable. If he had not lifted his forecorps across the Meghna, the fall of Dhaka would not have been possible. I almost forgot to tell you this. Now, traits of a maverick. Why is it that in my title I put maverick? Not just to make the title more appealing. There are reasons for it. I've analyzed who is a maverick. He has certain traits. A maverick has the following traits according to me. He has to be true-hearted and authentic. He always challenges the status quo, believes in his own vision, has very strong convictions, and they choose to see the world through their own eyes. They have great intuition and are often irreverent, and they do not suffer fool's gladly. Gentlemen, most of this has already come out when I have spoken about Sagat. With certain personal examples from his life, I will also touch upon one or two more. This is true-hearted and authentic. There was Lieutenant Colonel Dilip Singh, who was the military secretary to General Cariappa, who was the Western Army commander. He helped Sagat to get his seniority restored from the state forces to when he transferred to the Indian Army. And he says throughout his career, Sagat never forgot this and went out of his way to keep in touch and help him. So Sagat, it was not in Sagat's psyche to forget things and move on. And a second very humorous incident, I will tell you, gentlemen. The second pay commission was on, and the pay increase of the MNS was running into problems. So the Sagat knew about it. He was posted in the army headquarters there. He called the brigadier in charge of the MNS and he told her, "Ma'am, if you want your pay increase to come, when you are being questioned tomorrow, you should break down and cry." So she was quite outraged. She said, "What do you mean break down and cry?" So Sagat told her, "Do you want the increase for the military nursing services? MNS is the military nurse." So he convinced her. And next day when they asked, the committee was asking, the civilians, they are very large-hearted when their perks and privileges are concerned, but are a little tight-fisted when it comes to the army. That is the way they are, and we forgive them with a large heart. So anyway, when this interview or this thing was going on, like an Oscar winner, she broke down and cried. They were very nonplussed and they got their pay increase. As a staff officer, he could have just kept quiet, but he was true-hearted and authentic, did this stage-managed drama and got the MNS their dues. So these are two incidents that I thought that I will share with you regarding this. Him being true-hearted and authentic. Great intuition. Gentlemen, great intuition is a hallmark of a brilliant general. When 4-5 GR was to be lifted across the Meghna, this battalion 4-5 GR had already been through 2 operations and had casualties. This battalion was under General Krishna Rao's division. General Krishna Rao was a divisional commander under Sagat, who later rose to be the chief. And Sagat told him, "I want 4-5 GR to be lifted across the Meghna." So, and Krishna Rao also said, "This is my best battalion. But any battalion which has fought 2 battles expect that they will be replaced. But he insisted because he said, I want 45GR to go across the Meghna because I believe in this battalion. They were lifted across the Meghna again and they faced opposition, came over it brilliantly. It was in this operation that a young major called Cardozo, who later became a major general, lost his leg in a mine, and there is a story. He cut it off with a kukri, and he was with 45GR, and who later became Major General Cardozo. So it was this intuition of Sagat which insisted on 45GR being lifted across the Meghna. Second intuition, I've already told you, he knew that he would be able to carry his corps across the Meghna and make the fall of Dhaka, possible. So two places where this intuition as a general and as a maverick, I would attribute to Sagat. Do not suffer fools gladly. Oh, gentlemen, very, very interesting incident. There was an internationally renowned reporter called Claire Hollingworth. You can Google it and see. She was the first one who broke the story of the Second World War breaking out because she saw some tanks, and that is irrelevant. Now, she and Sagat had a very prickly relationship because, as I told you about the international media, even in 1967, I think she had been there. And in her reporting, she may have been internationally renowned. She was always anti-Indian. So this antagonism started right from 1967. And after 1971, in 16 December, Pakistan had surrendered. And Sagat was put in charge to ensure that there was no looting, raping, or rioting, and everything was calm and cool in Dhaka, which he did efficiently. But this Claire Hollingworth and her, group of reporters never reported this, and were always sending out contrary reports. Eastern Command and the Indian government used to react to it and ask Sagat for explanations. Sagat got fed up and he told Arora, why don't you come without announcing and see how things are for yourself? Arora did that, found everything was okay. And Sagat Singh had also banned this Claire Hollingworth from visiting Dhaka. She knew Srimati Indira Gandhi, got this order rescinded. So Sagat Singh was quite pissed off, to say in military terms, with this Claire Hollingworth. And he settled it in his own way. On the 31st of December, in Dhaka International Hotel, the New Year's party was being held. And suddenly Sagat Singh was holding his glass of whiskey. Incidentally, he was very fond of his whiskey. Hands it over to Doc Sridharan, who was one of the pilots who flew in during the war, and strode towards the door. So the officers were, other officers standing with him, wondering where he was going. He went straight to the door, found Claire Hollingworth entering, turned her around, put his foot on her ample backside, and shoved her into the corridor. And there she fell, no reports of anything. Gentlemen, generally, army officers are, very chivalrous towards ladies. But if Sagat had done it or is not done it is not authenticated. But I believe he had done it. And if he had done it, in my esteem, he goes up many, many notches. It was not reported in the press, and there was she left for Calcutta, and no nuisance from Claire Hollingworth after that. So these were the traits of the maverick. He had them in plenty, and I thought with certain incidents, I would put it across to you. I was also in conversation with my Cosmet and the Southwestern Army commander who had retired in 2019, and this is what he had to say about him. I hero worship only one general in this army, and that is General Sagat Singh. He had the unique quality of landing up in the middle of any battle to turn the tide. I was grateful that I got an opportunity to honor his memory on his 100th birth anniversary in June 2019, one of my last acts before retiring in August 2019. Lieutenant General Cherish Matson, Southwestern Army Commander, in conversation with me on the 26th. He had written an article, gentlemen, where he said he had also recommended to the Chief Secretary and the Chief Minister that in Rajasthan's curriculum, Sagat Singh's saga should be included, to which they had agreed. I do not know what has come of it. In our colors of glory, also we are fighting that military history should be included as part of the school curriculum. And I have written it as a note. Cherish Matson was also of the view that he should be conferred with the Bharat Ratna. I think I will now close why I consider him to be an unsung hero. First is he was not promoted as an army commander. Incomprehensible. No gallantry awards. When I say gallantry awards, he was given a civilian award, but it was a civilian award. And no gallantry award for a man who flew in the front lines, literally ranged the front of 4 Corps, shot up in his helicopter, suffered an injury, no gallantry award, and not made the colonel of the parachute regiment, a regiment which he held very, very close to his heart. So this is why I consider him an unsung hero. Now, a little bit about his later life. He retired in the year 1974, built his own house in Jaipur. He went and settled there. He did a lot of social work, and his wife predeceased him. He passed away in July 2001. And the entire who's who of Rajasthan turned up. And the present chief minister at that time, the previous chief minister, everybody landed up for his cremation. And when this giant body was being consumed by the flames, there was hardly anybody who did not shed tears. But again, incomprehensible as to why the para brigade, which is just a stone's throw away, did not send any representative. And this is why I call him an unsung hero. In March 2013, the Bangladesh government honored him. They called his son, Colonel Ranvijay, who's from 6th Mechanized Infantry, and the lady to Bangladesh and honored Sagat Singh. A number of officers and Jawans who had fought with Sagat Singh in 1971 were present there, and I believe a great honor was done to General Sagat Singh. That is all I have to say, gentlemen, about Sagat Singh. His duty done, his victory won, with God he rests, and may he rest in eternal peace. Jai Hind. It's open now for discussion, questions and comments.
Thank you very much, Sundar. A brilliant presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, now the floor is open for questions. A word about this interactive session. I mean, I'm sure some of you would like to share your experience. To an extent, we permit that, and we don't want to restrict to just questions only. We are all mostly veterans here. But I would request you to not to go into long-winding statements because we have a time frame. So you can relate your experience and ask relevant questions. Please shoot.
Yeah, can I start?
Please, please.
Yeah,
Just
I'm
say
Pushwaith.
Just give
Squadron Pushwaith.
Squadron Pushwaith. Go ahead, sir.
I was with Sagat Singh during the 71 war, and I was the flight commander running the looking after the helicopters. First of all, we had some small mistakes in a presentation. 4-5 Gurkhas we took to Sylhet. They never crossed the Meghna. They only went to Sylhet, and all the other people went across the Meghna. 4 Gurkhas was one of them, yes, where Chandrakant Singh is sitting there as well. I was one of the passengers with Sagat Singh when we got shot at. We had 38 bullet holes in that helicopter, and only one person was injured, and he was the pilot. All of us, I don't know how the bullets missed all of us. It was absolutely amazing. And the first thing I would give, anytime you give a presentation on Sagat Singh, first thing I would say, if there was no Sagat Singh, there would have been no Bangladesh. He was the only gentleman who is 100% responsible for Bangladesh. The original plan of the Indian Army, as you probably know, was just to capture a little bit of Bangladesh to put the refugees back. And Sagat Singh was the only one who said, that will not work. Dhaka is our destination, and that's where we are going. So I was, as I mentioned earlier, I was the flight commander. We did 8,000 soldiers we airlifted for him. 8,000, 2,000 tons of equipment we lifted for him. And of course, some went to Sylhet, but rest of it all went to Dhaka. And I think we were one of the reasons. And Sagat Singh, of course, was the main reason. The war lasted 2 weeks. No war lost 2 weeks. He was the only one. Before the rest of the world woke up to the fact that the war was on, Sagat had already finished it because everybody was sitting at the doorsteps of Dhaka. And hats off to Sagat Singh. It was such a pleasure to be working with him and delivering. And our helicopters were so wonderful because we didn't have a single accident, and we were literally flying 24/7. And I was the oldest, I was 30, and I had youngsters with me, Doc Sridhar, and he was only 19 at that time. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. Thank you.
Sir,
Thank you.
just a moment. Thank you very much. I'm very sorry, sir, because Group Captain Chandan Singh, who was there, and if it had not been for Group Captain Chandan Singh's, total support, and the helicopter pilots as Pushpet has given, it certainly would not have been possible. I believe at one point in time, Group Captain Chandan Singh asked Sagat, sir, helicopters, need maintenance. And Sagat told him, yeah, we've got a war on. So taking these risks, these helicopter pilots, Air Force and helicopter pilots did have a very, very major role to play. And thank you for that correction, sir. I am focusing more on Sagat Singh than the operations. Thank you very much, sir, for the correction. And it is really an honor to meet you, sir, that you had been in that, and we will be in touch. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Incidentally, Sundar, Scott did a Pushpa that made a beautiful presentation of the whole operation. He sort of privileged us with that.
Sir.
Gentlemen, more questions, please.
This is Chandrakant here.
Yeah,
Can you
please.
hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Firstly, I'm delighted, happy that Squadron Leader Pushpet is with me. He was in the first helicopter that flew us across the Meghna, and I was as a company commander sitting on in that helicopter.
4 guards.
4 guards. I was a company commander. Pushpet was the pilot, and sitting with us was in the hold of the aircraft, MI4, was Group Captain Chandan Singh.
Chandan Singh, yes.
I have done Chandan Singh's biography. It was published about 4 years ago and released by the Maharaja of Jodhpur. I've also written a book on the Meghna crossing, which was released last year at the Jaipur Literature Festival, which is the biggest literature event in the world. Here, I would like to read out what I've said about the helicopter pilots in Pushpet. The book is dedicated to the brave and magnificent pilots of the helicopters and their flying machine. It is they who made possible the victory in war and liberation of Bangladesh in an unimaginably short time, with the minimum shedding of blood. Both as nation and as a people in India and Bangladesh, we owe them immense gratitude. Perhaps some Pakistanis should thank them, for by cutting short the war, many of their lives were saved. This is the book on the Meghna. It was released at the Jaipur Literature Festival. I am now doing General Sagat's biography. It's a part biography, part autobiography, because he left behind an audio tape lasting 6.5 hours, 40,000 words, which I've converted into a book. It's going to the press now. At the back, and the back cover carries commendations of the Army Chief, the Navy Chief, and the Air Force Chief, all of whom were veterans of 71. Lastly, a personal note. I don't think there's anybody alive here who knows or knew General Sagat as well as I did. Going back, as you recounted, that he had enrolled in the Bikaner Ganga Risala. The regiment was raised by my great-grandfather, the one who's standing in the center, Lieutenant Colonel Deep Singh. On his right is Maharaja Ganga Singh of Bikaner, another British officer. This photograph was taken in 1899 during the Boxer Rebellion when the regiment was in China. I served under Sagat in Mizo Hills in 68, 69. 71, I served under him in the Bangladesh War. And then when he was transferred from 1 Corps to 4 Corps, I served under him in 4 Corps. Not in 4 Corps, in 1 Corps. Thereafter, when he built a house in Jaipur, he built a new house which shares a boundary wall with my sister's house. I used to drop in whenever I was in Jaipur to have a drink with him. Sagat was a larger-than-life personality. I don't think we'll see the likes of him ever again. The most important thing for us to remember is, and I put the question across to all the viewers here, tell me, since the beginning of our Indian calendar, which is the Vikram Samvat, which is 76 BC, till today, has India had a victory like the victory that Sagat gave us in 71? Number 2, Sagat's biggest achievement to me is not only the victory in Bangladesh and the standoff in Nathula, but in Mizo Hills, that is the only successful counterinsurgency operation which started and it is concluded by him successfully. Mizo Hills is a state of peace. Nowhere else has that thing been, and credit goes to Sagat completely. There's a lot more that one can say about General Sagat. Perhaps this is not the right forum, but my book is going to carry it as to how a group of people, both in the army and civilians, who out of sheer envy denied Sagat further promotion. But we'll be lucky that we had Sagat in the right place, in the right time. You will not see a like of him.
Thank you, Colonel.
Colonel, I never made it as a colonel. I left the army as a major.
Was amazing. So fine. But thank you, sir. I mean, I think we spoke to each other. I look forward to reading your book, Sagat. That's the latest. Thank you, Major. She said, okay. Other questions, please? We have some more time. You're most welcome. I mean, we are not so rigid about it, but in a certain time frame, we'll like to finish. That's yeah, go ahead, sir. I mean, you are proven veteran of 1971. Go ahead, Colonel Krishnan, sir. You're muted, sir. Please unmute and speak.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I will go about a little earlier than 71.
Okay.
68 in Chola. A brief mention was made by Sundar. Well, the Chinese did get a bloody nose, and they realized that the 62 Indian Army is not the one that they were facing in 68. That is made very true by some anecdotes which I like to give. My commanding officer, Colonel Mahatam Singh Mahavir Chakra, for Chola operations, and General Sagat and the brigade commander, Brigadier Kundan Singh, all of them rose from the ranks. And so they had a tremendous equation. What he told, first thing was to remove this bogey about the Chinese being 6-footers and much larger than life business. He says, he is to tell our troops, जो रम पीते हो, तो जो रम इश्यू होता है, जो अंडा तुमको मिलता है, जो अंडा तुम खाते हो, जो मीट जो मिलता है, वो सब बंद करके ऊपर जाकर चाइनीज को दिखाकर फिर खाओ, फिर पियो. In other words, he wanted them to have an upper hand, to boost the morale of our troops to such an extent that the Chinese would ask, and they did ask. When my commanding officer, Colonel Mahatam Singh Mahavir Chakra, used to break the ice with a mug and take the cold water from the Chola lake and put water over his head, and with his kacha, the Chinese used to ask our forward troops, "Ye kaun hai?" So our troops were told, "Ye hamara Mao Tse Tung hai." So that is the type of equation that we built up with the Chinese. And also at the Chola battle, which lasted for hardly few hours, we massacred the Chinese in spite of the goof-ups that had occurred earlier, of which I'm not going to make a mention because it will create an unnecessary confusion. Never mind, Sagat was a great man. And when this similar action was asked, sir, should I open up with artillery? General Sagat himself told Mahatma, don't escalate it anymore. You use your fire and movement and take the position back. Not one single round was fired. By sheer fire and movement, the posts that were vacated were retaken. He never used the word captured. They were retaken, reoccupied. That is why it is not called the Chola War. It is called the Chola Incident. And remains it remains not so much publicized in our history books also. Sagat was a great man, no doubt about it. I had the opportunity to fight not directly under him, but in the neighboring division. And we were facilitated to come closest to Dhaka by an ambush that I laid as a company commander on the road Jaydepur, Dhaka, 10 kilometers from Dhaka. And incidentally, Chandrakant, who had saved the Bangla Bandhu's family, was even mentioned by the family when I went to their house to have a cup of tea to protect them. So Chandrakant is a very famous figure in Bangladesh, and he's a hero in their army too. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. We can take one more question. Ladies and gentlemen, please come forward.
Colonel Sidhu, sir?
Yeah. Go ahead. Who is it, sir?
No, I said Colonel Sidhu.
Oh.
Thank you, sir, for giving me the opportunity. Firstly, I would like to thank Colonel Sundar for giving a very, very interesting and gripping narrative of the military life of one of our most brilliant distinct soldiers. And it was equally mesmerizing to listen to the veterans of the 1971 war, like squadron leader Pushp Vaid sir, Chandrakant Singh sir, and Krishna Swamy sir. I mean, this thing bucks me up no end to say that we've had veterans like you in 1971, and we will have them again as and when the need requires. My thanks to all of you for making this evening one of the most gripping evening and one of the most exciting talks that I have attended. Thanks a lot to all of you, sir, and especially to Colonel Sundar for having selected such a topic and going to the length of through his life of the hero of Bangladesh and telling us all about it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Sidhu. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Sundar.
So I have one question for Major Chandrakant, sir. Sir, this incident of Claire Hollingworth, Major Chandrakant, what do you have to say about it, sir?
In fact, I'm the one who wrote about it.
Sir, I didn't. That is why, sir, the moment your name came, a lot of things, but I would not like to disclose the name without taking the permission from that person. That would be eminently unfair, because at certain point in time, certain people do not want. So you're the actual hero who brought out this story, and I had read about it. And it was this story actually which got me, saying, how could there be a general like this? So this particular incident was the one which started, making me do research about just Sagat, sir.
I'll give you the reason why Claire Hollingworth got Sagat's goat.
Yeah, tell me, sir.
Claire Hellingworth was a legend, Second World War time reporter thing. On the 19th of December,
Sir.
our divisional commander, General Ben Gonzalez, 57th Commander,
6 mentions.
gave a press conference in which a lot of foreign correspondents, including Claire Hollingworth, Sidney Schanberg, who later on became the editor of New York Times, Gavin Young, the whole host of these characters were there. And Claire Hellingworth says, and General Gonzalez talked about the atrocities the Pakistani army had done, and that is the reason why we went in, which is a fact, nothing to be hidden about. Claire Hellingworth says, General, all these stories, words to the effect, is all old hat.
Right.
We don't want to hear about them. Tell us something else. Now, this was a concerted effort by a group of foreign powers and the lackeys and things to cover up for the Pakistanis, which they had been doing. My new book on Sagat actually is a whole chapter devoted to this subject. Whether it was Nixon, Kissinger, here Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, Brown in UK, all of them were anti-India, anti-Bangladesh, and pro-Pakistan. Because after all, Pakistan was a member of the CENTO and the whole lot of it in it. And we knew of it. And I don't think we need to say any more about it. It was a well-deserved kick. And us there, Sagat increased 6 inches in height.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Sorry to interrupt. I would like to tell everybody that the son of late General Sagat, Colonel Ranvijay, is also listening to us. I just saw he had posted.
I just posted, but posted on name maker also. That was, I was just getting lost. It is posted. Colonel Ranvijay Singh really enjoyed this interesting presentation. Is he here?
He just posted it, sir. He must be listening. He's from 6th, sir.
The name, the name on it is someone else's, Meghna or something.
Yes, maybe his somebody.
It says Colonel Ranvijay. Colonel, are you here? I would like to see you on video and audio.
Can I come in?
Sir?
Yeah, you can come in. But Colonel Ranvijay Singh, I was asking for whether he is here. My father, Lieutenant General Sagat Singh, is like a bright star who will continue to shine forever. He has posted, but I wonder whether he's here.
General Sagat, Meghna was the most important battle in India's history, which was completely doing of Sagat. The house that he built in Jaipur, he's named it Meghna. And his granddaughter is also named Meghna.
Oh, that is why this Meghna is posted here.
This biography and autobiography.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Right, ladies and gentlemen,
can I have one question, please, sir? Sorry, just one question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
While we wait for Major Chandrakant Singh's book to be published, I'd like to, as a layperson, I'd like to understand if for people like us who don't know much about, I mean, I've of course seen his pictures and read a little bit, but if we want to learn more about his service, his work, and how it impacted the creation of Bangladesh and the armed forces in India, which book would, say, Colonel Sundar recommend or Major Chandrachud recommend for us to read, sir? While we wait for Major Chandrakant Singh's book to be published, I'd like, as a layperson, I'd like to understand if for people.
So we have Colonel Ranvijay on the screen.
Here, sir. So thank you very much, sir. I sent to him a personal WhatsApp and really thankful to Colonel Ranvijay for attending and gracing this occasion. Really
so he is attending. Thank you very much.
We just saw his video, sir. Yeah.
Just here. Is that him in that?
Yes, in the green T-shirt. Yes,
green T-shirt. Yeah. Thank you very much for attending.
We have Ranvijay on the screen.
Yes, sir. So thank you very much, sir. I sent
here.
and really thankful to Colonel Ranvijay for for attending and gracing this occasion.
Yeah. So he is attending. Thank you very
I
much.
just saw his videos.
Yes. And he's got his daughter's name as
The green t-shirt. Very nice.
Samyogita and Meghna.
Yeah, yes, sir. So thank you very much, sir. I said
Thank you. Thank you, Ron. Subramaniam coming up again. Is there a question? All right, ladies and gentlemen, if there are no more questions, thank you very much once again, everybody. We look forward to seeing you all again for the meetings. Or would you like to say something? He's only come. You're muted. You got to unmute and then you can speak.
Something from Colonel Ranvijay, sir.
Colonel Ranvijay, would you like to speak? Please unmute and speak. You're muted.
Sir, you're muted, sir. You have to unmute.
You're muted.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, sir,
Now we
hear
can
you
hear you.
now.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Colonel Sundar,
Colonel Ranvijay, sir.
thank you very much for the.
Sir, you're muted, sir. So you're muted.
No. Now
He was all right.
He's all right. He's speaking.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I wanted to firstly thank you for the presentation. Thank you very much for your.
No. No, please don't speak others. Let him speak. He's on phone. That is right.
Yes.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Yeah, you can hear.
I wanted to firstly thank you for the presentation. Thank you very much for your.
No, please don't speak others. Let him speak. He's on phone. That is right.
Yes. I can hear you.
Yeah, you can hear.
I wanted to firstly presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's, please don't speak others. Let him speak. He's on phone. Audio is not clear.
I will add only one thing.
Yes, sir.
I will add only one thing.
Tell me.
I will add only one thing.
Yes, sir.
That is, I will add only one thing. In your talk on Goa, it took 40 hours. 40 hours.
Keep talking, it is really late.
In your talk on Goa,
Not audible, no?
it took 40 hours.
Moderator can mute everybody except Colonel Ranvijay, please.
No, it is muted, but the point is,
A lot of people are not muted.
Of Portuguese rule.
others, please mute. Let him speak. I mean, as it is, it's not very audible, so we have to.
Sir, it's from his background, sir.
His background, yeah. There is some background noise where you're speaking from. That is in phone. He's speaking from phone, I think. Isn't it, Ganesh?
Yes, sir, and his speaker is in TV, sir.
Yeah. Others, please mute. Let him speak. Not audible. not very audible. So we have to-
Whatever you want to say, you say it. We can hear you.
Sir, it's from his background.
His background, yeah. No, there is some background noise. Yeah, it is not. It is difficult to sort of unless its audio is set right.
Yes, sir, and his speaker is in TV.
Yeah. Thank you, Colonel Ranvijay. You can send us a feedback because the audio is not functioning there. Yeah. We will be happy to publish in our group. Yeah. There is some background noise. Yeah, it is not. It is difficult to sort of unless its audio is set right.
Yes, sir, and his speaker is in TV.
Yeah. Thank you, Colonel Ranvijay. You can send us a feedback because the audio is not functioning there.
You don't put it on volume, madam.
Huh?
They're asking you to speak whatever you want to.
But there's some echo. That is why you cannot be heard. You can. Audio is set right.
वो आ गया फोन पत्री आ गया क्या
नहीं आया, आप बोलते जाओ ना, वो समथिंग आएगा.
There's some echo. That is why you cannot be heard.
I'll just put the thing off.
That's his background. I mean, there's something in the background which makes noise.
नहीं आया, आप बोलते जाओ. You are not speaking. We can hear you.
He's not speaking. Please speak on. Don't bother about the echo. We can still hear you. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead.
I wanted to say that it took 40 hours to end 461 years of Portuguese rule.
Okay.
And history was made when Goa became part of India, and geography was made when it became a state of the Indian Union.
Yes.
Put on this,
It's echoing in the background.
Please continue.
Please continue, you say.
Secondly, I wanted to say again, my father made the history in the world by creating an independent country of Bangladesh, and it became geography was changed because Pakistan broke into two parts. The East Pakistan became independent of Bangladesh, and West Pakistan became isolated part of. So this was probably he is one of the few people who created the history and geography in the entire world. Then when I went to Bangladesh in 2013, I met from Lieutenant General Saifullah, KM Saifullah, who had served under him. And he said, and I met about more than 40, 50 officers who had served under him. They said that compared to the civil wars of uniting the country, they gave examples of Vietnam, North and South Vietnam. He says it took so many years for the country to unite. He says in 13 days, we were moving so fast in the liberation of our country that he says we are today eternally grateful to your father.
Wonderful. It was wonderful having you here, Colonel Ranvijay. I mean, hearing from the sun. Thank you very much for being here. On that note, I guess we'll close this wonderful program. Thank you, Sundar, once again. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Aparna, can we have the national anthem, please?
Thank you for
Thank you.
अरे भाई ये वो वीडियो पे यहाँ पे थोड़ी कोई बात करता है।
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, sir. Excellent
Right.
presentation, Colonel Sundar. Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Good
Thank you,
night.
Sundar, sir.
Wonderful.
Brilliant presentation.
Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Good night, everybody.
I
We
will
look
send
forward to
those
seeing
books,
you.
Aparna.
Huh?
No, Aparna had asked a question regarding certain books. I will talk to you separately, ma'am. I will send you the details.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night,
Good
Ram.
night.
Good night. Good night, everyone.
It was very intriguing, sir.